Most cars don't wear out. They get killed by everyday habits you don't even notice. Ignore one tiny rattle, skip one simple check, and suddenly you're staring at a $2,000 to $5,000 bill. The good news? The fixes are fast and easy. I'll reveal 17 secrets to push past 700,000 miles, plus one final move that stops the silent engine killer before it starts. Secret number 17, the pump click curse. Logically, it makes sense. Topping off your gas should help you save fuel. However, this innocence could cost you thousands in repairs. First, let's deal with the most obvious problem with overfilling. Topping off can cause you to spill gas, which is a fire hazard, a waste of money, and is bad for the environment. It is also bad for your car's paint because gasoline is a solvent, so when left for a while, it begins to destroy the protective wax and clear coat layers. But wait, it gets worse. When there's too much gas in the tank, some of it slides into the evaporative emission control (EVAP) system. The EVAP system is designed to absorb vapor and not liquid. That means topping off your gas just once could be enough to damage the EVAP system. This innocent mistake is responsible for 20% of all EVAP system failures. Dealerships charge over $2,000 to fix anything related to the emission system. If you want to save fuel without burning a hole in your pocket later, I've got a great tip at number 5. But first, let's look at something even mechanics often forget. Secret number 16, the ECU reset rule. Does your car get worse after you've fixed a major problem? Maybe you're experiencing rough idling, poor fuel economy, or poor performance. While it is possible that your mechanic conned you, the more likely reason is that he forgot the ECU reset rule. Every time you swap out a major part like oxygen or MAF sensors, batteries, or even an entire engine, you need to reset the ECU. This process wipes out all old data from your car's brain so that it can run on new data. If your car's ECU tries to use a new part like an old one, performance drops. In some cases, the car won't even start, or it might go into limp mode. Fortunately, the reset protocol is very simple. For most cars, all you need to do is unhook the battery terminals and touch them together for 30 seconds. Some cars require precise pedal and ignition actions. You'll find this in your manual. While this mistake can ruin your engine from the inside, let's talk about something that destroys your car from the outside. Secret number 15, winter washdown. Did you know that rust can reduce a car's value by up to 20%? Considering that the average used car now costs about $25,000, that's a $5,000 loss. While it is true that vehicles in the salt belt are 3 times more likely to suffer from corrosion, rust is preventable. Of course, you have to go beyond an anti-rust undercoat. What is, or even more important, is washing your undercarriage regularly, especially after driving on salted roads. That brine mixture of road salt and ice makes steel rust 10 times faster than water. The brine can get into the frame, brake lines, suspension mounts, and fuel lines, and because the salt is moist, it keeps steel surfaces wetter for longer. So unless you wash it off, the brine slushy will chew up the rust-proofing oils. Get yourself an undercarriage pressure washer. Going to a car wash is fine, but those low-pressure jets rarely have enough power. Blast off all the salt at least once a week or whenever you go through heavy snow. While we're still on the topic, there's another car-saving winter hack you can't afford to neglect. Secret number 14, the battery choke collar. Over 69 million cars break down on the road each year in the US, and a bad battery is responsible for 30% of these. But here's what's weird, that $350 emergency rescue could have been prevented with less than $1. As your battery gets older, hydrogen gas from the battery acid reacts with the metal terminals. You will begin to notice white, blue, or greenish powder on the terminals. That is called battery terminal corrosion, and way too many drivers underestimate it. As the corrosion builds, it acts as an insulator and prevents your battery from charging or discharging properly. Even if your battery is healthy and could last a couple more years, it will die in months. Not only that, but battery terminal corrosion can cause sensors, the alternator, and the starter to malfunction. Fortunately, battery terminal corrosion is easy to clean. Disconnect the battery terminals and apply a mixture of baking soda and water, or you can use lemon juice or vinegar. Scrub the crust off with a toothbrush and rinse with water. Once it's dry, apply Vaseline or dielectric grease to prevent future corrosion before retuning the terminals. This cleaning hack can save you hundreds, but the next one will save you thousands. Secret number 13. Mass airflow sensor cleanse. Here is a critical part of the engine that most car manuals merely gloss over. Mass airflow sensor measures how much air is flowing into the engine. It then relays this information to the ECU so that the right amount of fuel can be injected into the combustion chamber. Over time, this part gets dirty, and most drivers ignore it until it's too late. Mass airflow sensor starts glitching. Your car will either run rich from too much fuel or run lean from too little fuel. You'll experience poor fuel economy, rough idling, hesitation, poor acceleration, or even stalling. And yes, this can also trigger the check engine light. Diagnostic codes P0101, P0102, and P0103 refer to MAF circuit issues. However, a dirty mass airflow sensor can also cause lean codes, like P0171 and P0174. Fortunately, the MAF sensor is very easy to clean. Spray a few squirts of MAF sensor cleaner on it, let it dry, and see if it does the trick. Do this every 10,000 miles or once a year. When you're done with that, there's something else that needs a deep clean. Secret number 12. The fuel injector carbon purge. If you have a habit of constantly making short trips or you fall behind on oil changes, you need to pay attention to this one. Every time you drive your car, a small amount of unburnt fuel is deposited in the fuel injectors, intake manifold, cylinders, spark plugs, and EGR valves. Over time, this carbon buildup will impact performance, fuel economy, and engine longevity. The only way to solve this problem is by cleaning the fuel system. There are two ways to do this. The first is to take your car to a mechanic for a professional clean. However, at an average cost of $500, that's way too expensive. Some dealerships charge over $1,000. That's why it's better to use a fuel system additive like Tacron concentrate, gum out, redline, or 505CRF. While there are many snake oil additives, these ones are the real deal. They're recommended by manufacturers like Ford and BMW and top automotive experts. For less than $20, you can keep your car clean for about 6 months. They'll restore lost miles per gallon, restore power, lower emissions, and can even revive failing catalytic converters. Now let's look at something that has a great impact on your car, but costs even less. Secret number 11. The oil filter micron gap. Here's an easy way to reduce your car's lifespan by 15%. Or in some cases, your car could be dead in months. There is a huge difference in performance between OEM or high-quality aftermarket filters and cheap filters. The first is in the filter media. Good quality filters use cellulose, glass, polyester, or synthetic blend media that can trap particles down to 10 to 20 microns. Cheap filters can only filter up to 40 microns, which is about the width of human hair. Metal shavings of this size are responsible for the majority of engine wear. Another reason why OEM filters are better is the quality of the bypass and anti-drainback valves. Metal valves tend to function more reliably and longer than the plastic valves in cheap filters. As a result, you get more unfiltered oil flowing into the engine, which causes more damage. Trying to save $5 on a filter could cost you $5,000 in buying a new engine. This hack will save your engine, but the next will save your life. Secret number 10, the monthly tire safety ritual. There are over 33,000 tire-related accidents every year, making them the leading cause of mechanical-related crashes. The leading cause of tire blowouts is not even old age or overloading, but underinflation. Most people rely on the tire pressure monitoring system, TPMS, to tell them when they need to inflate their tires. The problem is that the TPMS only comes on when PSI is 25% lower than required. According to the NHTSA, when tires are this underinflated, you are 3 times more likely to have an accident. Inspect your tires every month and have them pumped to the PSI number on the driver's side door jamb, not the number on the sidewall. The number on the tire sidewall is the maximum PSI, not what your car manufacturer recommends for your vehicle. When you inspect your car, check the tread depth using the penny test. Put a penny upside down into the tread groove. If you can see all of Lincoln's head, your tire needs to be replaced immediately. Now let's debunk a myth that is silently ruining your engine. Secret number 9, the progressive warm-up technique. When it comes to warming up a cold vehicle, especially during winter, most drivers fall into 2 extremes. Many drivers get in the car and drive almost immediately. This practice accelerates engine wear by as much as 30%. However, the other practice of letting your car idle for several minutes is just as bad. When you idle a cold engine, some of that unburnt fuel washes oil off cylinder walls. This increases friction and wear inside the engine block. The second problem with idling is that it prevents the car from reaching optimal temperature quickly. As a result, moisture within the engine begins to mix with oil, causing contamination and eventually sludge. I've seen people spend over $8,000 to remove sludge buildup from their SUVs, making this a very expensive habit. The third problem with idling is that it doesn't allow the battery to charge properly, which can then lead to a breakdown. The right way to warm up your car in winter is to switch it on. Idle for 30 to 60 seconds, then start driving gently. Do not rev the engine or reach 2,500 RPM until the car is warmed up. This will save you time and money almost as much as the next thing. Secret number 8, the small leak failure chain. Over 40% of major mechanical failures start as small, ignored leaks. Small leaks from oil, coolant, hydraulic, or air are early warning signs of major systemic problems, and that's the only warning you're going to get. Fortunately, most small leaks can be saved with just one product. AT205 Reseal is an engine, power steering, transmission, and differential stop leak. Simply pour it in and watch the leaks dry up in as little as 4 hours. You can also spray it on the rubber components of your suspension and coolant hoses. This will make the rubber supple, which will reduce the chance of future leaks and save you thousands in repairs. Of course, this doesn't solve every problem. If a hose is too far gone or you have a broken seal, change those immediately. You don't want serious leaks in your oil, coolant, or transmission. You could end up spending over $5,000 on a new engine or $7,000 on a new transmission. If you notice puddles underneath your car that aren't from the AC, have it checked out immediately. We're going to come back to coolants in a minute. But first, let's dismiss a cardinal sin. Secret number 7, the OEM sensor compatibility rule. I get it, OEM parts are expensive, often costing 50% more than aftermarket parts. However, when it comes to sensors, it is usually best to stick with OEM, especially depending on the car you drive. For example, Chryslers are known for being nitpicky with oxygen sensors. If the part doesn't meet their 2.5 volt requirement, you'll get incorrect fuel trims and codes. This will cause rough idling, decreased fuel efficiency, and possibly even black smoke and stalling. Within a short period of time, the parts will also fail, and they might take other components down with them, like the catalytic converter. This can cost up to $2,500 to repair. The main problem with aftermarket sensors in general is poor compatibility and cheap build quality. This causes the parts to provide inaccurate data to the ECU, which causes poor engine performance and premature failure. Most importantly, some aftermarket sensors can void your warranty. Play it safe with automotive electronics and stick with OEM. Later in the video, I'll share the one exception. But first, another tip that can save you a ton of money. Secret number 6. The lifetime coolant myth. Back in the day, it was standard practice to get a coolant flush every 3 years, or 30,000 miles. Then they started marketing lifetime coolants, and everything went haywire. So let's separate the myth from reality. When manufacturers like BMW talk about lifetime coolants, they are referring to a product that is designed to last up to 150,000 miles. Considering that most Bimmers don't last long before they become too expensive to maintain, lifetime is right. We also have extended life coolants, which are orange or red, OAT, organic acid technology, which can last about 100,000 miles. However, this assumes normal driving conditions, which most people don't qualify for. If you're in a lot of stop-and-go traffic or you do a lot of short trips, your coolant will wear out quickly. The corrosion inhibitors and other additives within the coolant get contaminated or deteriorate, turning the coolant into acid. This will wreck your radiator, water pump, heater core, and head gasket. Get a coolant flush every 3 to 5 years, and you won't have to spend thousands on new components. While you're at it, here's something else you need to change. Secret number 5. The lifetime transmission fluid lie. A shocking 90% of automatic transmission failures are due to overheating and fluid contamination. Why? Because people also believe the lie about lifetime transmission fluids. Despite what the bottle says, you need to change your transmission fluid every 30,000 to 100,000 miles. If you drive a CVT, you might need to do this more often. When you don't change transmission fluid, you could experience slipping, hesitation, and poor acceleration. As the transmission fluid loses its lubricating and cooling properties, you'll also experience overheating, sludge, and internal component damage. In other words, believing a marketing lie can cause premature transmission failure. This will cost between $4,000 and $7,000 to fix. Remember that you need to change transmission fluid, not flush it. You always want to keep a bit of the old one to help season the clutches. If you just bought a high-mileage car that has never had a transmission fluid change, don't start now. This can ruin the car because the old transmission fluid might be what's holding it together. While we're still on the subject, secret number 4, regular fluid checks. Only 24% of drivers check their oil level every month. As for other fluids like coolant, brake fluid, transmission, and power steering, the figure is so low that there's no data for it. That's truly appalling because this 5-minute habit can prevent 90% of all breakdowns and 70% of major engine repairs. As a general rule, you need to check your engine oil every month when the engine is cool and top off as needed. If your car burns oil, you need to check it weekly. You should also check coolant, transmission, power steering, and windshield washer fluids monthly. As for your brake fluid, you can inspect it every 2 to 4 months. Also, check all of your fluids before long trips, even if it's been less than a month. You don't want a nasty surprise when you're in the middle of nowhere. Speaking of surprises, the next step will prevent the worst kind. Secret number 3, the belt and tensioner failure pair. It is fascinating how a $200 belt could be the reason you need to buy a $5,000 engine. When you hear the belt squealing, most drivers know enough to replace it. However, to save a bit of money, they often ignore the pulleys and tensioners. That's where the real danger is. Belts and tensioners wear out at the same time. So, changing the timing belt without updating the tensioners will still cause the belt to slip or snap. This will send your pistons slamming into the valves, and your engine will stop immediately. The same thing goes for the serpentine belt, which holds your alternator, AC compressor, power steering pump, and water pump together. Inspect your belts and tensioners every 30,000 miles and replace them at 50,000 miles. The good thing is you don't always need OEM belts. Get high-quality aftermarket parts, and your car will be fine for another 50,000 miles or longer. As for the next product, however, only buy the best. Secret number 2. The top-tier fuel advantage. When most drivers hear high-quality fuel, they think premium. However, premium has nothing to do with the quality of the gasoline. All it measures is the octane rating. When I say high-quality fuel, I mean top-tier gas. Top-tier fuel was created because car makers were unhappy with the minimum additive standards set by the Environmental Protection Agency. The car makers argued that the EPA-approved fuel leaves too much carbon in cars, which affects engine performance, fuel efficiency, and longevity. A study by AAA found that on average, top-tier gasoline resulted in 19 times fewer intake valve deposits than non-top-tier fuel. That is because top-tier gas contains polyethylamine, which is the same thing used in Techron concentrate. When you use top-tier fuel, it dissolves carbon buildup in the fuel system and reduces unburnt fuel. It also means you won't need to spend hundreds of dollars on professional cleaning. The best part is that on average, it only costs 3 cents per gallon more than non-top tier fuel. This makes it the second best fluid for your car. Now let's talk about the best. Secret number 1. The 5K oil rule. This is the most important rule for car maintenance. Many drivers claim that this is the reason they don't spend a fortune on repairs, and their cars surpass 500,000 miles. Clean oil lubricates, cools, and cleans your engine. But over time, it loses its additive package and gets contaminated with water and metal shavings. The oil will turn to sludge, which is very expensive to remove, often costing thousands of dollars. But even without sludge, driving around with dirty oil will reduce your engine's lifespan by 50%. I know that your manual might say you should change oil every 10,000 to 15,000 miles, but read the fine print. This is the regular service maintenance schedule, not the severe service schedule. If you drive in stop-and-go traffic, make short trips, tow, or drive in dusty or polluted spaces, your car falls within the severe service schedule. For that, you need to change your oil every 5,000 miles with full synthetic. Stick with this rule and you'll never deal with sludge, overheating, or premature engine wear. But before you go, there's one fluid mistake that can quietly cook your engine and hit you with a $10,000 bill. I show the fix in Doing This Will Make Your Engine Run Like New Again. Click to watch now.